Hey everyone. One person I think is a good example of being somewhat well known back in the day, but then slowly dying off, is Airsoftfatty. Like to me at least, he was one of those people where you didn't know him 100% well, but every time you saw him appear in a video, your brain would just be like, oh, I know that guy. Which is why years later, it was weird for me to see where he is now, doing his own stuff like working with Sam Hyde. And I wish I could say he's doing great, but there have been some recent stories come up from people who have been with him. Like Dave mentioned some of his actions that I saw were awful. Just like many other people who were big back in the day, he's gone into streaming as well. But I feel that's only a catalyst for worse to happen, which you will see in this video.
Airsoftfatty continues to destroy his reputation. The last time we covered Chris LaFawn was when he copyright struck my backup channel, Kiwi Archives, doing this out of anger for previous comments I had made. But I'm not here to talk about that today, because so much more has happened since then. The first major thing to happen after the copyright...
I love that haircut. He's got that classical monk bowl cut. It's beautiful.
Disturbing information. When Chris left for Fish Tank, he had a number of things with nowhere to store. So a friend of his at the time named Eric let him store these totes on his property. Upon Chris's return from Fish Tank, he began staying with his new manager, Blaze, who seized access of all of his social media accounts and his phone. As months went by with minimal contact from Airsoftfatty, Eric decided it was finally time to get these items off of his property. He would send Chris, whose phone number was now controlled by Blaze, a message asking him what he thinks they should do with all of these totes.
I'll read this. He said he would put them in there wet. LOL. He got some new clothes here. Do you think they are washable or no? So he's just like a vagabond, moving house to house, or staying in this place.
Said to simply throw it all away. But Eric, for some reason, would check through these totes to discover the moldy, cremated remains of both of Airsoftfatty's parents.
After Chris went to Fish Tank, I dropped him off at the airport.
I was going to say mold from like his sweat or from like not washing the clothes.
I had to go pick up Chris's belongings, all of his items, which wasn't packed. I had to go get totes and pack them, most of them. But there were probably 6 totes that he had already pre-packed. But unbeknownst to me, inside of these totes were the remains of his mom and his dad, his deceased mom and his dad. Literally didn't tell me this. I had no idea. I literally found out from Cookie. He's like, oh yeah, that's really weird that he just had you moving his parents. And I was like, what? What? I'm moving his parents? But that's not really that big a deal, right? Who cares? It's someone's parents, right? That wouldn't have been
at some in some form, maybe, yeah.
Condition that he packed them in. So, Chris being Chris, he packed a tote full of wet clothes, dab torches, headphones, all sorts of random shit. And inside the tote full of wet clothes that was sitting in my garage for 2 months was the remains of his parents. Covered in mold.
I want you to ask, like, how do you store ashes? Normally put it in an urn, but if you're moving around and you have it in a box full of like random shit because you live in someone else's house, surely you don't have that. So I can't even tell what that is. Is that like a shoebox? The one on the left looks like more high quality, like an actual like metal box. But even then, it looks more for like documents and the ashes of a dead person.
And all this shit that had been growing, God knows, since he packed it. Before he left for Fish Tank. So I had to go through the tote because at first I didn't even see his parents were in there. They were literally covered with clothes. And so I was asking Blaze, his current manager, like, should I just toss the tote?
For what?
Should I go through it?
There's no way he was so big on Fish Tank they had to get people to help him out with his fame.
Literally Chris said to toss the tote. Like, if I hadn't taken like an extra few minutes just to go through the damn tote, I could have been responsible for technically throwing away Airsoftfatty's parents, dude.
Eric would go on to talk about how Airsoftfatty treated his former roommate / landlord, Cookie. Some of you might remember Cookie from Airsoftfatty's biggest freakout. After his channel was demonetized,
Man, that would be my limbo. Being stuck in his room with two fat guys walking around streaming. While also having like the most generic posters ever, like the GTA San Andreas poster, and this is like a science. That's something a kid would have hanged up like during high school. Because it's science.
He began screaming at the top of his lungs. That's when Cookie came in a very half-hearted attempt to comfort him. Chris was living with Cookie in Cookie's trailer. Chris would leave Cookie's place officially when he went to Fish Tank, and the condition he left the spare room in was terrible. Eric would go on to talk about this, as well as the treatment of Airsoftfatty's cat, Noname.
Airsoftfatty literally left Cookie with like a fucking a $2,000 bill. Not all of the damage was from Chris, but the majority, like a fucking broken bathtub.
Unless you have hard evidence that was him that broke the bathtub, don't fucking slander Chris like that.
Bathroom needed to be cleaned because he never cleaned it, and you would just throw Noname in the fucking bathroom. Noname is a whole other story too, because when I'd go over there, bro, when I'd go to Chris's house, there was literally a time where I had to tell Chris, like, yo, Noname needs water, dude. Like, and he goes, oh yeah, I'll fill it up. He's sitting in a chair like this, right? Just a fucking office
just
chair.
puts Pepsi in the
leans
bowl.
behind him with a bottle of water and just starts filling up a Beyblade arena with water as his fucking cat's water dish. And I was just speechless because that fucking
Because it was so badass, I know. He took the words right out of my mouth.
Fucking Beyblade arena.
The conditions that Noname was living in while Chris was staying with Cookie were not good. Chris wasn't even supposed to have a cat.
I love how these people always like, no matter like at what low point of their life they'll always be like people in the stream just loving like seeing how miserable they are and just donate like a shit ton of money, $100 just for out of nowhere. But at the same time, there are people who are just nice and want to help them out a bit. But without like a message, it's really hard to tell if they want like just throw money at them because they're laughing or because they want to help them.
In his spare bathroom, which allegedly he would lock the cat in when he didn't want to deal with it. Multiple statements made by Eric had me asking so many questions. So I decided to contact him and set up an interview. And in this interview, Eric would provide a couple of interesting facts about the cat Noname's fate, as well as Airsoftfatty's infamous safety stream. You said something about it that was mind-blowing. You said that him and Blaze had gotten into an argument, and Blaze had said, hey, you have a week to get the fuck out of here. So that's why Chris went live.
Yeah, there was something that happened behind the scenes. Chris must have done something that Blaze didn't like, because he locked him out of all of his socials except for Discord. That was the only way Chris could contact me, because he felt like we were still close enough that he could, reach out and be like, hey, like, I have no one to help me here. Like, I am alone and I'm scared. There was something about Chris said that Blazer and the other dude, there's like another guy that helps him record that also helped him like build the house. You know what I'm talking about? He always wears like a hat. I don't know his name.
Yep, I saw them from the construction videos.
Yeah.
He's part of the team. Was it the older guy?
Not the ginger.
Okay, the younger
like the darker
guy.
complexion guy. Yeah.
All right.
Something about how Blazer said that Blazer and the other guy would delete all of the content that he and Chris had made, including Fatty on the street, and then relinquish, like delete all this video, all this like content that they were making. I think that's what had Chris so scared. He was literally like, "Oh man, what am I gonna do?" He was like, Blaze is telling Chris, I will relinquish all your accounts when you're off the property, and so is your house."
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's basically confirmed that Airsoftfatty's infamous safety stream, which I'm showing on screen right now, was due to Blaze's threats against Chris. Granted, Eric did go on to say that Chris had probably squeezed Blaze a little too hard to try to get something out of him, as Chris has been known to do. But still, to threaten this guy who has nowhere else to go with homelessness, and then to say, I'm not going to give you your channel back until you get the shed out of here. That's crazy. Chris has no way of doing that. The safety stream makes a lot more sense when you think about it like that. Eric would also reveal something else that was a huge relief to me, and I'm sure it will be to most of you too. Noname,
really nice cat. Like, that's not the type of cat you just get from the street. It looks like an actual, like, what do you call it? Like a nice breed of cat that you buy of someone. So that poor cat had every chance to have a good owner if it should be bought. But the strings of fate pulled it towards Chris.
Cat that Chris owned when he was living with Cookie didn't die. When Chris left for Fish Tank, he also left the task of dealing with Noname to Cookie and Eric. Eric confirmed that Cookie took Noname to a no-kill shelter and that she was actually adopted out to a family before Chris even left the fish tank.
My stomach fucking sank when he said kill a shelter.
This still does not change my views towards Chris or the way that he has treated his animals in the past. And as I just said, it seemed like Chris didn't really care what happened to the cat as long as he got to go.
Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if the cat barely had any like food or water? It was living like a king in his room. Look, it has a massive tower. What more do you want for a cat?
Tank. Speaking of Fish Tank, Chris has been spotted more and more with Sam Hyde and the $1 Million Extreme crew. Knowing that Chris is an absolute gold mine live, they would have him on a stream one day where he would put his narcissism and arrogance front and center for thousands of people to see. Going on a tangent about how previous generations, you know, like the ones that dealt with tuberculosis and polio, had it way easier than we have it today with all our modern medicine.
There's no way you can say that as an obese person. I'm gonna tread lightly. I don't want to piss off all the Chris fans, but there's no way you can actually believe that. When I'm not making assumptions, but I feel like with someone like him of his stature, he does require some medicine, you know, to, of course, not to live, but you have better health, you know. So if you lived 200 years ago, his quality of life would be way worse.
Our generation, this room right here has seen a couple of pandemics that would have stopped the whole earth 100 years ago. So I'm gonna put it like this: I got all respect for those who served in World War II. I got all respect for people who are older than me, whatever, right? But I'm gonna be honest, to keep saying that generation is the strongest, bravest, sure, they could walk into some gunfire and not give a f. But to say they're the strongest...
I mean, you could walk into gunfire and not give a shit. Look how big you are.
Every generation in this room right now...
COVID.
...has faced COVID. Not just COVID. We faced, a good 3 or 4 different pandemics that 100 years ago would have stopped the earth completely.
What other pandemics?
There was COVID. There was a secondary form of COVID that came out. SARS.
Yeah.
Bird flu.
Bird flu. There was swine flu. Yep, there was that.
I would go so far as to say that people back then... I wouldn't say that they're cowards, but I would say comparatively they kind of are cowards.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. If you think
really,
about it.
everyone's a coward.
That's
when you think about it, man.
Well, not me.
I don't know,
he's
man.
like a goblin.
I think there's got to be something out there that would make you think twice before stepping into a room.
No.
There's got to be something. Snakes, cats, dogs,
Gay guys?
chinchillas, flying squirrels.
What's the gay guys?
I feel like you could handle a room of gay guys.
Yeah.
I feel like you could walk through that and get to the other side just fine.
Thanks, Chris.
I could sit here for...
That was just a bizarre argument. What do you really gain from saying like, oh, people back in the day have had it way much easier. They don't deserve to act like they were so tough. Like, what are you really gonna do? Are you gonna go back in time and prove that your generation in the future was so much tougher because of COVID? Of course, it doesn't even make sense because you can't really judge what life was like back in the day because, you know, you didn't live then. People who were actually around that time had actual experience, so there's no point in already making assumptions of what it was like and being like, oh no, this generation was way tougher. But the events that he was bringing up, like World War II, like that's almost like a century ago. Like, who cares? It's already finished by then.
Horrifying illnesses that are basically wiped out now, at least in certain parts of the world, because of modern medicine. I personally am very happy to live in this day and age.
I'll say it now. The one thing I love about Fish Tank is that with all the cameras, this shot right here, it looks like something from like the Outlast game series. Just like some maniac walking around the insane asylum.
Both medical and just in our daily lives. Could you imagine wanting to understand something and opening up an encyclopedia to learn about it? Oh, it'd be pretty awful. Not to mention polio. Chris wants to sit there and act like we have it so hard today because we've been through one pandemic. But comparatively to other things that have happened in the past that are far more disastrous and deadly, we don't have nothing on the past 100 years. At least the place that me and Chris are from. I'm sure that's not the case in many places around the world. You also see in this video that Chris is a master of flattery.
I feel like you can handle a room of gay guys.
Yeah.
I feel like you could walk through that and get to the other side just fine.
Thanks, Chris.
Noticing Chris's undeniable riz, the $1 Million Extreme crew decided to have him on their very own dating show. And during this dating show, he'll start off acting real sweet, laying
Dude,
on all
that
the
green
riz
tie-dye shirt
until
making him
they
so
eventually
much
reject
pussy.
him, and he switches on a dime, going for the throat.
Got a nice little home of my own that I built, and, well, let's just say it's in a nice little quaint spot.
I'm waiting to move and get out and go back to reality.
Well then.
He really is built in God's perfect image.
No.
That's okay. This is just a Make-A-Wish thing I'm doing anyway.
What?
This is just a Make-A-Wish thing I'm doing anyway.
Specifically, like, just what about his appearance?
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, we're taking this.
God, put it back on, put it back on.
Are your
These
feet
are
sweaty?
all natural. These are all natural feet here.
All natural.
Play around. I'm not modified in any way.
There's nothing funnier to me than fat people getting rejected by girls and then they just get so aggressive.
1.5 because these toes is crazy.
Yeah, they are. Aren't
The
they?
big toe?
I've done a
What?
lot of
No, no, no,
walking.
no, 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 no.
A motherfucking walking.
Right. See, I was just about to say that. Your big toe is real big, bro. And see, see, go back to this foot. Go back to this foot.
What's right here?
Why is it shining?
Why is it shining?
Are you sweating?
You know what?
I'm
I got
cold.
some pretty weird sweat glands. I can sweat in the middle of negative 15 degree temperatures,
that's gross.
or I could be dry at 90.
Oh my God, tell me
So
more,
let's say we've been
baby.
dating for 3 years. Recently got fired from my job. You know, tough times happen. You go a little too stoned and the boss man gets upset.
That's something a 15-year-old reflects about.
You play some Starfield. Where would you apply for a second job to pick up the financial slack around the house? Because let's face it, my fat ass don't want to work anymore. Now look, I like to dig a little deep when I give people ratings. It helps people learn to be better as themselves. So, let's give you a rating. I'm going to go with a 7. You look the kind of person that takes care of yourself. You don't necessarily go to the gym every day trying to be a bodybuilder type person, but you go in, go for an hour run maybe, and you're done. Or maybe you take your dog out for a walk. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm an animal guy, so I love animals. But besides the point, you were a 7.
As you all can see, Airsoftfatty is worse than ever. The jovial Airsoftfatty character he portrays in his videos is nothing but a facade. Much like Boogie2988, this downfall has been rapid and sheer. And it's a damn shame, because he had so much potential. That's all we have on Airsoftfatty today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you could leave...
Man, what an incredible character. I mean, on this show, he was definitely like hamming it up, but the lack of shame and just like going head first into like making like the weirdest jokes. You actually like appreciate part of that, but it's embarrassing on the other side as well. The vibe I get from him like hanging out with like Sam Hyde and the other guy as well on the stream, it feels like a kid who wants to impress everyone who's older than him by making it seem like he's around their age. So his tactic is to like just make like the really weird jokes to make it seem like, yeah, I'm more mature than I actually look like. And to be honest, he does look younger than he actually is. I'm gonna say right now, he's probably around like between 25 and 30, but he looks way younger than that. So I feel like he's a bit like self-conscious on that. But at the same time, he does not give a shit about like making jokes or just showing his entire body out on camera. So he probably doesn't care that much about like other shit in his life. You know what? If he wasn't this embarrassing in videos, I probably would like him. It's just when stuff like the Eric guy said earlier about him having his parents in a box over like a mountain of like wet clothes. Like that's just like, could you really not even like give a shit about your own dead parents, or you wouldn't like take them out? Like either put them in an urn or like spread around like somewhere else. Don't keep it in a fucking box to be like forgotten about like a relic. To me, that was such like a massive sign that he just like does not give a shit about like anyone else. So if he was like a somewhat more decent person, I probably would like his content if he made his own channel, or even like if he got featured in this show. It would be kind of funny, but it's just like the other shit here in this video and in streams as well. That just makes me see him as like a shitty person, to be honest, man.
Now you want to use my mob as a crutch. What you think you can't get bucked again? Once again, back in the house once again. Lived a life that had diamonds and guns, and now gels pull cats like a bass head pull on stems.